So we have heard about the Pharmacology Science Gateway, the Trodan repository. There was a research and forecasting model, and right now of the certification authorities and identity federations. So we have about 30 minutes time for discussion. So I will take one or two questions to the various presenters. And I will start with the first presentation on Pharmacology Science Gateway. So if you have any question to Colette Dandara, I will take one or two. Yes, the gentleman at the back. So if there is any other question, you can make yourself. Okay, we start. Please introduce yourself first.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. Angelos Harlaftis, Epaphos Advisors. Thank you for being here, and we salute this European Union and Africa summit. I would like to ask the person in the medicine sector. We have spoken about Ebola. It happened also 2 weeks ago. I think it was on the Belgian Academy of Military. We discussed the Ebola on the ground because they were the edge of European Union over there. And is it so difficult for our, on the sector of the personal pharmacology, to take the DNA of the Ebola virus and to reconstruct and see how we can oppose this? We have the technology today. Why we are so late on that?
Any other question so that we can do it in bulk? No? So Colette.
Let me rephrase your question. Is your question on the difficulties with the analyzing DNA or the taking of DNA? I didn't quite understand. The virus is a DNA genotype. Yes. So if you take the genotype and we analyze it, you can find how it's weak. Okay. Yes, I will attempt to to answer that. One of the problems that we have in terms of the research partnerships that we have between Africa and EU from a long time ago is the type of what research questions are given priority. We have known of the Ebola threat a long time ago, 1976 when Ebola was discovered, but then it was not a priority for the developed world because it was not their problem. The problem was let us research on diabetes and over and that. But now that it has become a problem for everybody, it has to be solved now. So what we can do is, if we can identify problems and try to, actually, if we don't follow the money but follow the priorities in particular areas, we could have solved the Ebola problem a long time ago. However, research is being done already now, especially on the sequence. The virus has been sequenced, it has been identified. That's not a huge problem. What is there now is a public health issue, where you just now need to try to stop the spread of the virus. But the genetics of the virus is now known. So that's not the problem we have in terms of the other genomics now. If we look at human genomics, is that now anybody is able to send their sample to, let's say, an institute like Beijing Genome Institute for sequencing. However, when they get those sequences, we don't have the computers that can actually handle the analysis of that data. They are there in different parts of the world, very limited. So we are thinking that through this initiative, we could be able to access these facilities in a free way, through our connections with people who are working in those facilities. I hope I've tried to answer your question.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Colette. Let us move to the next presenter, Boba Nii, on the Trojan repository. So if you have any question to Bode, so I will take one or two.
In fact, I'm approaching it from a development perspective, and my question goes to Dr. Boba Nii, to Dr. Dandara, and Dr. Sansa Otim. DG Development has considered or is considering stunting is a major health hazard and danger for Africa. Stunting is caused by aflatoxin, one of the reasons. It creates disabling, it creates also heart diseases, immunity suppression, etc. Now, when I listen to your three presentations, I think we have also an opportunity here today, because 2 weeks ago, the Commissioner for Agriculture of the African Union declared that aflatoxin has to be a key strategy, needs to be developed to tackle it. Now, when I relate it to pharmacology, I see that, for example, the University of Ghent in Belgium has a yearly training for 15 African aflatoxin specialists. And there is, in Zimbabwe, May 2015, an upcoming meeting on African aflatoxin experts. Now, this is related to an FP7 DG research program, MycoRed, from an Italian professor, Dr. Visconti from the University of Bari. When you start connecting things and try to see what ICT can do, then I would certainly suggest that you would go to that meeting in May in Zimbabwe. It's going to be in Livingstone. These are going to be aflatoxin specialists, but definitely they need your networking support as pharmacists. When I connect this now to the sensors which are being developed for weather forecast, this is of course highly relevant, because if we can have those sensors in storage capacities, storage containers, whereby we monitor the level of moisture in maize, groundnut, cassava storage facilities, at least we can tackle the cause of aflatoxin, which is precisely because lack or bad storage capacities. So it's not a question, but it's like, as we want now with ICT infrastructure to chip into funding opportunities. I'm just back from Berlin, where we had a meeting among donors, USAID, Australia, Dutch, German, Swiss, etc., European Commission. And there is a high concern now among the donor community after having been confined for years among researchers, the aflatoxin problem. So finally it is reaching now the donor and the operators on the ground. So maybe this would be an opportunity to target an upcoming call, and we may talk later on through email or whatever, to submit a proposal for the next African Union Science and Technology call for proposals. It's going to be launched in 2015.
Thank you very much. Bode, you want to comment on that? Or Colette?
So that's a very interesting development, and it's something that we can actually jump on board, especially in the area of applications of wireless sensor networks. It's very low cost, low power, and can be used. One of the variables we mentioned, measure, like I mentioned, is humidity. And so we can use this to know the level of humidity in this grain, because the higher the humidity, the more susceptible they are to developing aflatoxins. So this is a very good opportunity that will have also not only commercial applications, because those people are making the feeds that are used there for business purposes, but also it connects to health and the impacts, because the people that take the products that end up having these aflatoxins are, the end users, and it goes all the way down to the children, where it can cause this stunting issue. So we'll be killing two birds with one stone, and it's a very good opportunity to take up.
Thank you so much for your comment. Just to add on to that, I think with this connectivity, it will help us also to get data in terms of the spread of the effect of aflatoxins. If you look in, there's a few studies that have been done in Africa, in South Africa particularly, which has even linked the aflatoxins to a high risk of esophageal cancer in some parts of South Africa. So these types of calls, if they're well broadcast, people with the interest in aflatoxins, they can come together and look at various aspects of the effects of aflatoxin. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think there is an opportunity for collaboration here, so you can liaise with him maybe at the break. You want to? Yeah.
Just a comment on the technical side. I mean, several of the technologies that have been implemented in EI for Africa, thanks to a common participation to other projects, have been shared with Agri-Infra, which is an FP7 project for that target agricultural sciences, and with Earth Server, which is another project aiming at creating a big data analytics infrastructure for environment monitoring satellite and so on. So, I mean, your comment is very good, and the answer is that the technology is there. So if there is a way to connect these disciplines, the technology that we developed in EI for Africa can be reused.
Thank you very much. If you have maybe questions to Julian on weather research and modeling. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, there is a matter that is topping the list of a lot of agendas at meetings, which is the issue of climate change. To what extent are you addressing the issue of climate change in the research that you are doing? Have you done any modeling as to when we might be 10 years from now with regards to climate change? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question? Maybe Julian, before you answer. Yes, please.
Yes, I'm Betty from Tanzania. I just want to add up that in East Africa we have many projects, but now we are faced with a challenge of climate change. And with collaboration, then if we integrate the ICT and this weather, then it is possible that our projects can succeed. Because sometimes you find farmers plant a certain variety and it dries up, so the farmer lost his resources and then he has to replant again. But if they are equipped with this instrument, it is possible to know that this time it will rain and or not. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Julian?
Thank you for the questions. Starting with the first one, to what extent we are addressing climate change in this project? Okay, first of all, we are focusing on weather, which is short-term in relation to climate. You talk about climate in terms of 10 years and more, or even 50 years and more. But because our challenges are mainly to do with seasons, the next season, just like the example the next person gave in her question of giving farmers information related to weather. So our first focus is on weather forecasts. But like I mentioned, one of the outputs is weather data repositories. So hopefully we will contribute to data being available. It's interesting that in East Africa, the meteorology agencies were there since 1900, in the last century. But the data is very scanty, much as there was data collected in that period. But most of it was on papers, in books, and because of the wars and everything, much of it was lost. So if we can digitize what is left, as well as carefully save what is being collected now, then some decades from now, there will be data to talk about in terms of climate predictions. So currently the focus is on weather information, but hopefully there will be an impact on climate scales in the medium to far future. And then, I didn't really get the question, but I thought it was a comment that there are many projects and ICTs can be used to hopefully get the data or the information to the people, for example, the farmers. In my presentation, I just talked about weather affecting different sectors. And indeed, the agriculture sector is one of the focal ones, and particularly to the farmers, because in East Africa, a huge percentage of our populations depend on subsistence farming. So indeed, one of the things we are looking at is improving the weather dissemination systems currently being used, and that even includes things that are not really ICT, but for example, translation of the weather forecasts to local languages, or adding advisories beyond the technical language of the rains will be above normal or below normal or normal, telling the farmer the implications of that. Maybe you should plant early maturing crops and things like that. Of course, we cannot do that as one discipline. And actually, I didn't mention this, but we are actually a multidisciplinary group, including the meteorologists, the computer scientists, even the agriculturalists, in order to be able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian. Bode, you want to add something?
Yes, on the questions on climate change, that happens to fall under our purview at Center for Atmospheric Research, and also at the other international collaborative institutes that we work together with. And that's where CORDEX comes in. I mentioned it briefly, but it's in full terms is the Coordinated Regional Downscaling Experiment. And it involves all modeling, most of the modeling institutes around the world. They have come together and made projections, starting with historical projections from 1951 up till 2006, then future projections all the way to 2100. And these projections are made under various scenarios for the IPCC AR5 report that came out just last year. So we've got two main scenarios, the RCP 8.5, the RCP 4.5. One is more like business as usual, and the other one is on the carbon dioxide increasing to a particular level and stabilizing before the end of the century. And based on these projections, we have data, a huge amount of data for Africa that's been generated under the CIMIP 5 program, which is the comparison of coupled model intercomparison project, and which we are now downscaling to regional levels. And what we're doing under CORDEX is taking the global data and downscaling it to regional levels. And Africa has major drought hotspots, for example, in the Sahel, East Africa, the Horn of Africa, and Southern Africa. And we already have results, preliminary results, telling us what to expect from the model output towards the end of the century. So with like WACREN acting as an enabling body, we can actually link different institutions across Africa and provide a bandwidth, a backbone to disseminate this data. Have a kind of portal in Africa, because this data is already available on the Earth System Federation grids in Europe. Make this available in Africa so that we can easily not only share this data, but hold regional workshops, training workshops, to train scientists on how to evaluate, analyze, and get information from this data for actionable use.
Thank you very much, Bode. So we move on now to Roberto. If you have any question for Roberto. Yes?
Okay, my name's Peter Muya from Kennett. We'd want to thank EF Africa for the support that they gave us. I had two questions. The first one is, you mentioned that the Africa Science Gateway will be moved to DIT. So I was wondering, we developed capacity in the development of CS and IDP, but very little capacity on the side of the Africa Science Gateway. So are there plans on building capacity on that direction? And then the second one is, which model is more advisable to adopt? Should we focus on building that one single African Science Gateway, or each participating organization should build their own science gateways, and not only just one science gateway, but for different, like for instance, in Kenya, we have researchers who are in agriculture, we have others who are in medicine, we have others who are doing marine research. So should we build science gateways for each of those researchers, or we should build one and enhance it? Thank you.
Thank you. A last question maybe, if there is any? No? Roberto?
So first of all, you're very welcome. I mean, it's been great working with you guys. I mean, I think it's been, I was surprised by the enthusiasm that you and the other people of the other end put in deploying these services, and the rapidity you solved the problem that we encountered. So the Africa Grid Science Gateway has been conceived to be a demonstration platform to demonstrate the easiness to access and execute applications. By definition, a science gateway is community-oriented. So nothing, absolutely nothing prevents you to deploy as many science gateways as you need to support the different communities that you have in your countries, in your country and in other countries as well. As you have seen, the Africa Grid Science Gateway is a kind of multi-community science gateway. I mean, if you go to the application, we have the disciplines, and then for each of the disciplines, we have the demonstrative applications. The Pharmacology Science Gateway has been the first attempt to create a science gateway for a given community. At the moment, the Pharmacology Science Gateway has been embedded into the Africa Grid Science Gateway, but it could be easily transferred to a standalone, to a dedicated science gateway. So we are going to release the Ansible playbooks to install the science gateway in a straightforward way. So if you are interested, we can deploy another science gateway or more science gateways in Kenya to support the communities you have. And the same is for the other countries involved in EI for Africa. And the same is for the other countries not involved in EI for Africa, which are interested in creating this capacity. So the answer is, tell me where we can deploy. I mean, when the Ansible playbook in a week or 2 weeks maximum will be ready, we can install automatically. If you are willing to start right now, we have instructions to install the science gateway, and you can follow the instructions. So there is no absolutely, I mean, the Africa Grid Science Gateway, the idea is that it will stay as a demonstrative platform, but then more focus-oriented, I mean, a research-oriented science gateway can and will be built in the next future.
Thank you very much, Roberto. Any other question to any of the panelists? If it is not the case, I have a question to each of you. Well, okay, so last question then.
Hi, my name is Peter Kuria. I am from Kenya, but currently living in Finland. I work at the University of Applied Sciences. I'm curious to hear from you on two critical problems that Africa is facing. One being agriculture and food security, and two being on energy. How do you see what you're doing contributing to addressing those problems?
Okay. Who wants to make 30 seconds, please?
Yeah. I mean, for the agriculture, we have developed in another FP7 project a science gateway with agriculture-related applications. And I didn't say this, but it's very important. I mean, the science gateways that we have developed are based on standards in such a way that applications can be easily moved from one science gateway to the other. It's like bricks, like we usually make the analogy with the Lego bricks. So we can move, if you are interested, if there is a community in your country and you have a science gateway in your country, we can move the application from the other science gateway to the one that is in your country, and then you can support your community. The same thing for any other kind of domain. So we really invested on adopting standards in programming this kind of portals so that applications are self-contained, that can be moved from one container to the other.
Thank you. Any other comment from the, or just a very short one? No, go ahead.
Yeah, I can make a short one. on agriculture. I don't know about the rest of Africa, but in Uganda we used to have extension workers who would take information to the farmers about crops and about different things. So we see a direct link of what we are doing with that, because we can reach the farmers directly through their mobile phones or through other approaches with accurate information.
Just a quick comment. I just wanted to add that I think in agriculture, most of the food we lose it post-harvest, just pre-harvest, about 50%. Early warning systems through connectivity can actually be very helpful to just warn the farmers that they should do X, Y, Z.
Thank you. I have a question to each of you, but please answer in 1 minute. If you answer in 10 seconds, that's better. And you can use the 50 remaining seconds for a takeaway. Okay. Starting with you, I think what is good, in this Pharmacology Science Gateway, I think, is that I see from your activities that they go beyond the lifetime of the project. And I think that is something that is very, very important regarding sustainability. Can you just give us, an idea? Did you assess the usage, of the gateway by the community? Maybe to Bode, you were talking about the difficulties, for the gateways regarding, your IP addresses, etc. So I think, connecting to NGREN, or what do you think about it? Because I think it will solve your problem. And to Julian, you were talking about, WRF, training the staff, on WRF, and including programming. Is it really necessary to use a system? Because it might be a barrier, for a user who doesn't want to be involved in programming, just use the system maybe through a graphical interface. And a question to Roberto. Can you share with us, what led to the DevOps philosophy approach? Yeah. I start with...
The Pharmacology Science Gateway, we develop it based on the needs of the people we are already collaborating with. So there is a demo out. We have not yet assessed the usage, but we hope now to invite other people now to know about it and see how much they will use it.
So we have a model in which we go from commercial ISPs to the NRENs. We'll have the backbone available, and we can even go from the current IP4 protocols to IP6 protocols, which are infinitely addressable IP spaces. And you can imagine how much space we'll have for the wireless sensor network configurations across the whole region. That's quite phenomenal.
Yeah, so the question was whether programming training is necessary for users to use the WRF model. There are two categories of users, the basic users and the expert users. The basic users can just get whatever they need out of the system through visualization, as you said. But if you want to do research with this model, if you want to try out different configurations and comparison of parameters, then you really have to go to the programming level.
I will answer, but first I would like to remind everybody that WRF is included as a demonstrative application in the Africa Grid Science Gateway. So if you want to get familiar with the WRF, we have a couple of demonstrative simulations. Concerning the question, so by definition, I'm reading again, DevOps is blending of tasks performed by system and operations teams. So imagine what we did in the first year of Africa. We provided the NRENs, Peter, for example, with instructions to install the IDPs and the related services, LDAP services, registries, and so on. So the same was done in Tanzania, in Nigeria. So they started from maybe different operating systems, different versions of Linux, or different configuration of different ports, open or closed. And then we had to go back and solve the problems one by one. So imagine that all this knowledge base, you transfer in a procedure that you can execute. So Peter tell me, okay, I have this machine, with this operating system. I have a playbook, I push a button and I install on his machine the identity provider. This has been done, has been tested for Zambia. So people at Xamarin, they gave us just the access to the machine and what kind of operating system they had. And we pre-configured the playbook. Then we pressed a button and we installed the IDP. So we plan to do the same for the Science Gateway and for the other services. This can be done for any kind of services. The big advantages of our model with respect to other software which are existing is that the installation can be done centrally at remote sites. So you do not need to replicate the know-how to create this machinery. This can be done at the level of the NREN or at the level of big organizations, and then the small organization can get their service installed in a quick way.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you to all the panelists, and please join me to thank them with a big applause, but also our rapporteur, Tiwonga Banda. Thank you.